Fallout 4 had its combat system overhauled. A lot of people regard that as the best or premier aspect of this game. That's especially highlighted when compared to things like Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas, where the combat for Fallout 4 is on a whole nother level. Well, naturally, due to this, a lot of people love finding some of the scariest, spookiest, or just most difficult enemies in the game for you to encounter. Some of these are a little bit more obvious and thrown in your face, things like Swan as well as Sarge, where you'll just naturally encounter them. You'll never have to go out of your way to get there. Well, in today's video, I want to show you some enemies that maybe you haven't encountered. Some of these are going to be on some certain side quest or maybe just a location that is based around this enemy. I'm going to be showing you 3 of these today, and I think the last one is kind of one the fewest of you will encounter because it's in a totally unmarked location and actually the most difficult. As always, if you guys enjoy the video, I encourage you to leave a like or comment down below. Do you want to see more of this? Let me know some enemies I may have missed. Again, I purposely didn't include Swan or Sarge in this list because I feel like a lot of you guys probably experienced that, and even though it would have made the video longer, I don't think it really would have been all that interesting because you have encountered them already. So the way I'm basically going to set up this video is there's going to be locations for you to go to, and the enemy is at that location. Starting things off, we have the Massachusetts State House. This is part of Boston Common and going to be one of the more city or urban areas in the Commonwealth. So this one's pretty interesting. Basically, as you traverse through this house, it's kind of different than a lot of these other locations because it seems like it's been kind of overhauled or taken over by some kind of goo, and you'll find some mirelurks scattered about. Reading through the terminals, there's actually a bit of a backstory there, but that's not really the point of this video. It's a really interesting location, so I would definitely go through, read the terminals, loot it out, and as you progress through it, you'll find this kind of massive bottomless hole at the middle of it. As you jump down, you kind of expect, oh, something's gonna jump out, right? Well, no, actually, nothing jumps out. You'll progress a little bit further. Occasionally, you'll hear raiders talking, which is interesting because you never really encounter them till the very end. But as you wander around a bit further, you'll find mirelurk eggs, and you kind of start to put together, okay, so maybe all this goo or crap everywhere is actually from a mirelurk. It's very obvious that there's a door you have to get through, so towards this bottom layer, you'll get to a terminal to open the door, and then here again you think, all right, something's gonna jump out, right? As you open this door, something's gonna come through it, or maybe out of that big hole. Wrong yet again. But then as you walk through the crevice there, a giant mirelurk queen will kind of leap out of that hole there. I feel like this enemy was particularly spooky or interesting because there were so many instances where I thought it was gonna pop out and it didn't, and at the very end when it jumps out, it genuinely startled me. That thing gets a good couple feet into the air and then starts attacking you, and otherwise it is largely just a standard mirelurk queen. But you kind of are in a cramped area, so the little buggers will become quite annoying, and honestly, if you're playing on survival, this will be quite a difficult fight. So we do have the Museum of Witchcraft. This may be the most well-known out of the bunch. The reason this enemy is so interesting is because it's immediately evident to you what's going on. As you enter the Museum of Witchcraft through the side entrance, you hear the Deathclaw. You know there is a Deathclaw in this building, but it kind of takes a psychological toll on you. This one is playing with your emotions and your feelings. You don't instantly encounter this Deathclaw. You have to work your way through the building, finding tons of dead gunners along the way on the ground, finding them ripped apart and their body parts. So you know this Deathclaw has been here and taken down a lot of different enemies. As well as there's a lot of kind of jump scares and scary noises going on. You hear the Deathclaw's footsteps above you and the dust falling off of the ceiling boards. I feel like this is an interesting location more than anything else. This definitely isn't the toughest enemy, but this is another one that kind of teases you. As you progress your way further and further through the Museum of Witchcraft, the Deathclaw becomes more and more quiet. As you approach it, you don't actually know where it is. So eventually you get to the main floor, you kind of expect it to jump out, but in fact it's hiding around a corner and then it will rush at you. It's fairly easy to take down if you do get a sneak attack or have a high damage weapon. It's definitely not the toughest enemy on this list, but if you aren't paying attention super well, it can jump at you and take you down very quickly. Pretty much one hit from this guy was killing me. As well as your whole experience in the Museum of Witchcraft will probably leave you at least a little bit spooked. So last but certainly not least, we have 35 Court. It's actually an unmarked location. Basically, it's going to be west of the Custom House Tower. This is going to be in like the bottom rightish corner of the map. It's actually really dangerous to even get to this location. I died a few times, as well as on the outside of the building, there's 2 turrets on top of the structure that will try and mow you down as you get closer. Plus, you have to kind of battle Bethesda lag as you do go into some of these more urban districts. Upon entrance on this one, it's another where you kind of just find a bunch of dead bodies. There's a Protectron that will be triggered by a trap there, but he's pretty easy to take down. But then as you take the elevator up, you'll notice something pretty peculiar. There's actually a suit of XO1 here. But as you approach either of those 2 doors surrounding the XO1, 2 enemies will come out, an Assaultron as well as a Sentry Bot. Arguably 2 of the hardest enemies to take down in the game. So this one was actually like genuinely hard for me to kill. I died multiple times trying to film this, and I actually had to lower my difficulty setting because I couldn't do it. The reason this is so difficult is you either take on the Sentry Bot or the Assaultron, but they will both kind of rush at you at the same time, and there's no real cover. You're on a rooftop. It's a very small area. So if you try and melee down the Assaultron, you'll actually just get mowed down by the Sentry Bot or vice versa. The only way I actually successfully did this was by setting up a bunch of mines, and the only way I knew to set up a bunch of mines was dying a bunch of times. One of the other cool parts about this is there's actually a reward. Again, you do get a suit of XO1 after this, and you could jump off this tower down to the land below, which was kind of a cool reward. This was definitely the biggest payoff, but also without a doubt the biggest challenge I've ever had in Fallout 4. One tip if you actually are trying to do this, if you sneak and aim in one of these doors as they initially open, you actually can get that sneak bonus. That's probably the easiest way to finish these enemies off, because otherwise it's definitely going to be a struggle unless you, again, use a bunch of mines. So that's pretty much it. Those are the 3 hardest enemies I've found in Fallout 4. Again, I tried to focus on ones that you wouldn't obviously encounter, or things that maybe you just missed on your initial or secondary playthroughs. As always, again, I thank you guys for watching. I do hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.